I hope my video last week was of use as well as the little report I've put together. Once again, let me know if that format works for you, if the content I'm giving you is useful, if it's stuff you already know, if I've dropped in any jargon that you possibly don't know. I'm working under the assumptions that you'll pick up on that, but if not, let me know so I can tailor it to what you're working with. Big thing Noemi and I chatted about today was, first off, the name, and the second one was the types of content we produce. So I'll start with your name, AgriPathways. I think it's a good name. I've got no beef with it, pardon the pun. But the main issue that arises for me is that there's an identical program in Canada which will look a lot like what you're going to do, basically. So it's not a deal breaker that there's something that's been done the same somewhere else, but I think it's worth touching base with the Canadians just to check and see how they feel about you doing this and whether or not they can be any assistance with the process. Possibly altering the name just a touch to maybe AgriPathways Australia, just to make it unique and give it an identifier. Wouldn't be a bad idea, but I think you should maybe spend a bit of time this next week, just go over the name, make a list of the pros and the cons of having a name that somebody else has, and then weigh it up and make the decision whether or not you want to move forward with that. If you do, very quickly we can secure the name and get things moving. That's not an issue. The second thing we went over today was content. Now, I put a bit of a brief section into the report last week on the types of content you can produce. Probably the overriding thing is that we don't need a heap of different types of content. What you do need to have is quality content that is useful and won't get lost in amongst too many other things. So I wrote down case studies last week and we discussed that again today. Now, you're looking at getting a video made. That is the central case study itself. There's obviously some barriers that are popping up with that based on your available resources. There's nothing wrong with having a case study that's written, as long as you've got a good quality photo that goes beside it. So I suppose a recommendation from me was, and once again this was popped in last week's, 400 to 600 word case study, one produced by each member of the group, gives you 9 solid case studies of people who've gone through the process and are an ideal candidate, and they can show what following through in a career in agriculture can do. So I suppose the young people need to see an end outcome. So these sorts of stories are fantastic for that. The other sort of information that go on is an actual example pathway. If I do X followed by Y, I'll end up in Z position, and this is the life that I can have. So we can find different ways of working with that, and they could be in infographics or just listed out, or it could be through, looking at a degree and seeing what can happen there. The third one was actual lists of places where they can start their career or get further information. So this will need to be compiled. There'll be people who've already got lists of things, so if you can get into their ears and find them, we can use that information. And probably the fourth one is helpful hints. So if somebody already wanted to get into the agricultural industry but wasn't really sure, if you could find somebody from the industry who may be responsible for, say, employing them or giving them that first chance, to give just short hints and tips on what they could possibly do and how they position themselves better for this one. You're going to need a reasonable amount of content for this, so I think it's worth settling fairly quickly if this is the avenue you want to pursue, and starting on it. Because there'll be a process of actually creating the content. I can edit it for you, that's not an issue afterwards, but I do need a basis to work with. And until we decide what sort of content we want, I can't really do the plan for the website itself because I need to know what we're going to put in it. So I can give you a bit of a guiding information on that, but you sort of have to start making these decisions on how you want to go about it. I think you've set your goals down more broadly, so it's for the program, so it's what you're doing underneath that. Now that's starting to branch out a little bit. Noemi had mentioned that she may have a graphic designer who could possibly put together a little infographic. I think that'd be a great way to enter the site with some key points on the agricultural industry, but same deal, you need to go out and get those points. So it could be on employment ratios, average wages, the amount of production within Australia, very similar to the Canadian one. I think do spend a bit of time having a look through their site. As I said, it's very clean, it's very good. There's a lot of information, it's pertinent. We can do that in a similar sort of way, and it really speeds up the process as well instead of reinventing the wheel there. But I guess it all comes back to chatting to those people and seeing if you're going to do something very similar and you're going to have the same name, how do they feel about that? They were our big points for this week, and if there are any points that came up through the report I put through last week or even through today's little message, which is probably just going over things we already have, feel free to drop a line to me through Noemi. But once again, with AgriPathways, I think it's a good name. I think you should be fairly happy with it, but just sit down and spend a little bit of time going over the pros and cons, weigh it up, is it worthwhile? Thanks.